Thank you so much, David. We've heard a lot this morning that it's not about the tech. It's about the people. And I'd go even farther and say it's about the things that the people need to do. And then I'd muddy it a little bit by saying that tools have an incredible power to make it easier or harder to do the things that people need to do. And a lot of those things are the practices of 21st century government. And so this is why we're talking about tools this morning. Tools can be simple and old and build things of incredible power. If you think about what it took to build Notre Dame, it wasn't cranes, except in the old hand pulley sense. It was hundreds of people and hundreds of years, and it's one of the most beautiful objects on Earth. So it didn't need fancy tech. At the same time, when New York and other American cities were growing up in the early 20th century, you had a whole new set of things. Things happened in a decade in terms of the height of buildings that hadn't happened in hundreds of years before. There was a different set of tools that people needed to work with steel, to build really high. And when you get into the digital realm, you can actually encode practices from the pre-digital era into digital tools. So if you're thinking about a typewriter, and maybe some of you out there are old enough to have used a typewriter in business. I know I took one to college my first year. When you type on a typewriter, there's not much you can do about a mistake. And so very much like with a printing press, which was a technology from the 15th century, you have to get it right, and publishing is kind of final. And so the first versions of things like Aldus PageMaker, which is an early desktop publishing tool, embedded the idea that you couldn't edit any text in the program. You could just basically flow it in there, and then it was done, and it was final. And that was how publishing worked. It was separate from writing. Well, this is a Tumblr interface today. And it assumes that you will publish and write in the same tool, basically in the same moment, possibly even from your telephone. It's a very different way of thinking about the practice of publishing and of reaching an audience, which is something that is very important to the practice of 21st century government. I want to talk also about the idea that it matters how done a tool is. This is Mariano Rivera giving an interview a few years ago about his very first baseball glove. It's on his hand, and it was made out of a milk carton. And this is actually true of a number of major leaguers, that they started playing wherever they were, where there wasn't a lot of money for leather gloves, and they hacked these wonderful, ingenious gloves out of milk cartons. But they don't use those in the major leagues today. In fact, they don't even use those in reasonably well-resourced rec leagues in the United States today. They use gloves that have been developed over hundreds of years, from sort of a nice leather glove to this very technological work of almost art. And now, not only can the major leagues use them, you can buy one of these at any of your local sporting goods stores. So it really matters, both whether a tool fits the specific purpose that you're trying to do with it, the specific practice that you want to support, and also how done it is, how much work is behind it, refining it. So everyone on our panel today is working on at least one of these two axes of tools. How do we make them more fit to the practices that we want to embody in 21st century government? And how do we bring them to a level where it's easy for lots of people to adopt and use them?